Hello everyone, welcome to the Grid Talk, the only F1 podcast where you get completely unbiased opinions about the 2026 and beyond F1 seasons. And today I'm going to be predicting the 2026 championship order based on who I'm going to think is finishing where and why, starting from the bottom, obviously, and moving up to who I think is going to win. Let's start with number 22. Coming in 22nd position, I have put Lance Stroll. This is purely because of preseason testing and where the Aston Martin was, which was not very good. They broke down many times. I did make a day one testing video wrapped if you need to see that. But in terms of Lance Stroll, I think he just doesn't have the drive in F1 anymore. He doesn't want to be in the sport, I don't think. We have seen moments where he's shown greatness, especially last year. At the start of last year, he was doing very well. I'm not personally a Lance Stroll hater. I think, yeah, his seat should be taken for a rookie by Aston Martin, but we're not. I've given up hoping for that, and I've just accepted the fact that Lance Stroll's on the grid, and I think he's going to finish 22nd in the grid order this season, which is upsetting because he usually does relatively well. Uh, but this season, I think he's just not going to have the car underneath him. He's going to have a lot of engine failures, that kind of thing, that ruin his race weekends, and it's not going to go well for him this season, and maybe it'll be his last. Coming in 21st position, we have Sergio Checo Perez. I was deciding on 21st and 20th between Perez and Bottas because Cadillac are the new team on the grid and I don't expect them to do very well. Cadillac themselves have said that they don't think they're going to do very well because they're still building up this team. And I think it's amazing that they have these old heads of Perez and Bottas, but it's also difficult because even though they have such skill and they have many race wins, it's not really enough to make up for the fact that the car isn't probably going to be very good. They ran something very similar to the show car on day one of testing, which again, they don't have the facilities to be able to develop as quickly as Ferrari or McLaren because they have the money from General Motors, but they don't have all of the factories and all the people working for them and the 1,000-member team like Mercedes and the experienced designers like Adrian Newey, and we all saw how that went with his car because the aero is fine. It's just the GP2 engine and that engine not working well in that car. But they have seen a lot of durability in their engine. The Ferrari engine is very good at not blowing up, and it's relatively quick as well with that smaller turbo, meaning that they can spool up quicker and get an amazing start compared to everyone else. We saw that during preseason testing as well with the mandated practice starts, which is good for them. We might see them rocket up the places a few times in the starts, and it might be able to get them to a points position if they qualify, say P12, they get up to P8, and then there's the red flag near the end of the race while they're still running in the points. Like, I don't think they're going to finish with 0 points because they have that experience of Perez and Bottas. But yeah, I think Perez will just be edged out by Bottas a little bit. I think he's got more experience, but he doesn't have as good one lap pace as Bottas, which will overall be his downfall compared to Bottas, if you want to call it that. But I don't think it'll be very like one driver's 100% winning. I think it'll be pretty close between the two. And I want to see who comes out on top because it'd be interesting to see them race because they haven't really raced each other before, apart from when they had the pink Mercedes in Racing Point and Force India that was kind of competitive with Perez and Ocon. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that Cadillac team. And I'm wishing them luck. Don't think they're getting a podium like some people say. But it'd be exciting to see something like that. Moving into P20 to 15, starting off with, as you probably already predicted from the previous section, Valtteri Bottas. Again, I think Cadillac are just going to be okay. They'll get a few points finishes over the year. Maybe there's a track that suits them really well and they get good qualifying. Maybe there's a red flag that they get really lucky with. Like Perez and Bottas would be really good for crazy strategies that end up working really well. Maybe a wet weather drive that sees them get up to the top of the grid. I think that'd be really interesting to see. But again, I think Bottas and Perez don't have the raw speed or the raw race pace. Like Perez has got better race pace than Bottas, but Bottas has better qualifying pace. But I do think having both of them will be good for the team in terms of development, but I don't think it'll be good for them in terms of this first season where they need a good, amazingly quick driver that could maybe be a rookie, like maybe get Jack Crawford or even, God forbid, Felipe Drogovic if any of the teams want to touch him, take him away from the shadow realm of wherever he is right now, and put him in the seat. But yeah, it's just a few building years for Cadillac. They also said for themselves that they definitely don't be very competitive until at least 2028, 2030, that kind of time. That's when they want to be challenging for championships. I think they said by 2030, which I can see because they have the very, very good facilities and upgrade money from General Motors and the Cadillac brand to be able to rocket them up the field in terms of performance. Compared to someone like Williams, which this has been a 10-year program or something since 2015 when they were getting those podiums, and then they fell off with the change in guards, team principal. But yeah, the extra money, especially with someone like Audi as well, that would be good for them. But considering Audi already have a team to build off of, that's why I put them higher. And I think Nico Hulkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto is a stronger driver pairing than Cadillac and Perez, which will be interesting to see how all of the driver pairings turn out this year, and exciting as well. Right, let's move to P19 on the grid, which I have reluctantly chosen Franco Colapinto to fill this spot because I think the Alpine is going to be a lot better than last year. But I think Franco is going to struggle to score points because of how many teams are going to be competitive this year. I think there's not a team on the grid that won't be competitive for points in almost every race this year. And I think Franco just won't be able to capitalise on that as much as some of the other drivers. And I think P19 is not a bad position considering how competitive this grid's going to be. And I think the reason he is so low is because some of the worst teams have the experienced drivers that are able to capitalise on things, such as Nico Hulkenberg for Audi or his teammate Pierre Gasly, that are going to be able to just capitalise on their experience and pace to be able to score more points and outscore Franco in the long run. But I think he is going to get quite a few point scoring finishes and his first one for Alpine in this season, and I think he'll keep his seat going into 2027, which is a good thing for him. Next, let's move to P18, where I have Fernando Alonso. I don't think this is going to be a very good year for Aston Martin, as I mentioned with Lance Stroll in P22. But I think, obviously, because it's Fernando Alonso, I could see him getting a lot higher than P18 if he doesn't have engine failures, which is what I expect to happen over the course of this season. I think he'll be running in good positions, and the Aston Martin engine will just play up and not do as he wants and end up like blowing up on a few occasions, which will just mean he can't score as many points as he would like. I know many people have predicted a 2026 Alonso Championship this year, but I think we're getting another GP2 engine year, and maybe Fernando's last if we don't see any progress going through this year, which is what he said, that he wants to see progress going through 2026, and if he doesn't, then he's out. But yeah, I don't even think Fernando Alonso can save this team, which is crazy to say because he usually is able to save every team he goes to, and the team that he's at right now, he's got podiums with, and now they are right at the bottom of the grid, doing terribly, having their engine blow up every time. So it's just upsetting to see him potentially leave the sport at the end of this year. On to P17, we have the only rookie for 2026, Arvid Lindblad in the RB. I think he and Liam Lawson will both have good seasons. I think they'll both earn their seats for next season. But I think Lawson will definitely outperform him. Not massively, but I think there's just going to be so many opportunities where the better drivers are going to be able to overcome the less experienced ones with their tactics of like battery saving. But I think this is a very good year for Arvid Lindblad to join the sport because not many people know how to charge that battery very well. And if Arvid's learning at the same time as everyone else, then it's going to give him an advantage compared to if he joined last year, where everyone else knows how to drive those cars. And him having the manager of Oliver Rowland, who is the current Formula E champion, who knows everything about battery because those cars run off of electricity, full electric batteries, then that will give him an advantage too. So I think he will do well. I think that RB is going to be competitive, but I also think that he will have a little bit of a Liam Lawson 2025 season where he starts off a bit meh and takes a while to warm up to it, but once he does, then he can get a few point scoring finishes and who knows, maybe even a podium, but I don't think so. Yeah, Lindblad is British, as you can tell from my amazing attempts to tap the British flag there. But it's getting exciting to see what the Silverstone Grand Prix is going to be like with Lando, Hamilton, Russell, Lindblad, Behrman. I think that's 5 British drivers on the grid now, which is going to be exciting because who do we root for? It's how I think it's almost 25% of the grid are British now, which is 100% British bias. I will agree. But yeah, it would just be exciting to see what Arvid can do, to see if he can keep his seat and see if he can not be crash happy like he was in F2 with that a few crashes in Monza and I believe it was Baku. But yeah, exciting. In P16, I have got Nico Hulkenberg for Audi. I was deliberating between a lot of drivers for the P16 to P10 positions, but I've gone for Nico Hulkenberg to be P16. Getting beaten by Bortoleto this year, I think he made quite a good progress throughout the 2025 season. But Hulkenberg got very was much better at his strategy and his racecraft, and not basically crashing a few times, which Bortoleto did. And Bortoleto actually was, I think, like 25 points of getting outscoring Nico uh, over the course of the season, which he definitely could have gotten if he hadn't crashed ever, which Hulkenberg didn't do. But also Hulkenberg's podium at Silverstone definitely helped, which was an insane moment for him. I don't think he's getting his podium this year, and I don't think Audi are going to be as competitive as Sauber were last year. I think it's going to be a slight step back for them. If not, they're going to stay the same and everyone else is going to move forward. Again, like Cadillac, it's a building year for them. But I think it's going to be interesting to see where everyone falls in the pecking order. And I think Audi will be about the P8-7 range, maybe fighting for P5 in the championship this year because Williams aren't really far ahead at the moment with Albon and Sainz. But yeah, I think Hulkenberg just won't be able to pull out that podium again, which means the 15 points that he did get last year won't go towards his championship efforts, and meaning he will end up finishing somewhere lower on the grid compared to his, I think, P10 or 11 finish last year, which was insane. Moving up to the top 15 drivers for my predictions, we're going to move over to Pierre Gasly in the Alpine for P15. I think Gasly will do a respectable job in that Alpine this year. P15 is a pretty good position to be in, considering how competitive this year is going to be with the 22 drivers on the grid and most of them being competitive for points, apart from Lance Stroll. And I think he's going to do very well compared to his teammate because Franco's still developing, still under the wrath of Flavio Briatore, so he's not going to be able to do very well. But yeah, I think Gasly is an experienced driver. He's good. There might be a podium coming his way this season if the Alpine is good enough. Those Mercedes engines are going to help the Alpine team be better this year, and I think they'll be a solid 7th or 6th in the Constructors' Championship, ahead of those likes of Alpine. Alpine aren't going to be ahead of Alpine. Alpine will be ahead of the likes of Audi, Williams, Cadillac, Aston, those kind of teams, purely because of Gasly's moments where he just randomly locks in halfway through the season and gets a P7 like he did last year. Next, we have P14, who I have picked Gabriel Bortoleto. I think this is going to be one of the most improved drivers in terms of standings and overall performance this year. I think Bortoleto is going to come back with a new mindset. The last few races of the 2025 season didn't go well for him, especially Brazil onwards, where he had those few crashes. But I think this year he's going to have ironed out those mistakes. He's going to be much better and be able to score points more consistently, and get himself into more positions like Hulkenberg did last year, where he was just able to have the pace. Um, and we have seen pace from Bortoleto in races such as Austria last year, where he was battling his mentor Fernando Alonso uh, and a few others, where he genuinely outperformed Hulkenberg and has really good qualifying pace, which means he can put himself in the positions to have races like Hungary and Austria, because he went 12-12 against one of the best qualifiers that we've ever had in the sport. Hulkenberg was already known as a great qualifier. So to have Bortoleto match that in his first season is insane. And I think he'll be able to improve on that and become a much better driver and maybe challenge for a championship in a few years' time, because I think that this kid is so underrated and he's going to get really good over the next course of this kid is really underrated, and he's going to get a few wins in the next coming years. And I reckon he'll be one of the championship favourites when people like Russell and Verstappen retire and he ends up in a top team. In P13, I have put Liam Lawson. I think Liam Lawson is going to have a better season than last year, which says quite a lot considering that his best career finish from last season was P5, which he got at Austria, I believe. And he had quite consistent point scoring finishes throughout the halfway mark towards the end of the season after he got back from the clutches of the second seat at Red Bull. And I think he will improve once again, gain more experience, and I think he'll become a mainstay on the grid with his second full season in F1. His first full season without any interruptions in any of the teams, unless Isaac Hadjar is so bad that they want to swap him back with Liam Lawson or Arvid Lindblad, which I don't think will happen. I think Hadjar's actually going to have a really respectable season, which is why he hasn't appeared on this list yet. But I think, again, Lawson is going to be a good pick for RB and is going to end up being quite a respected driver if he can sort out his tendency to hit other drivers and blame them. So yeah, that should be an interesting aspect of Lawson's career to see where that goes. I hope he can be a little bit cleaner this season because he is a nice guy and I like watching the RB social posts where they do all that stupid stuff with Isaac Hadjar and Lindblad. And now it will be Lindblad and Lawson and Isaac Hadjar and Lawson, and it's just so exciting to see those characters because he is a nice guy, and hopefully his Lucky Lightning McQueen Crocs will bring him some more luck this season. Almost at the halfway point now, we come to P12 with Esteban Ocon in the Haas, who I think is going to have a similar performance to last year, but maybe slightly better because the Haas will be slightly better. But I also think that the top drivers, such as Yuki Tsunoda from last year, who wasn't on the grid, have been replaced by Isaac Hadjar, or a few other drivers that weren't necessarily in the points as much as they used to be, will be taking points off Ocon. Even though he will be performing better, I think there will be less opportunities for him to score points than last year because the grid is going to be more competitive. So I think it's kind of going to balance out and he's going to finish in around the same position as last year, which is going to be respectable. And I think we will see Aya Komatsu's wishes for an improved Ocon to be slightly fulfilled, and he will keep his seat for 2027, going on to the Toyota partnership, unless a new rookie comes in, or maybe Hamilton retires and they have to want a new fresh slate. But I feel like they would want to keep Ocon in that position. So yeah, I think he's going to be relatively good. and it's going to be a good season for Ocon overall, maybe a podium, but I think it's more likely that Oliver Bearman gets a podium based on where I put him overall in the position of like the driver's grid order, and I think the Haas is going to be much better, and I think Molly Bearman is going to shine next season. Up the table in P11, I have gone for Alex Albon. I think he and Carlos Sainz are going to have a worse Williams this year, which is why I've moved them both down a few positions. But I think Carlos Sainz, now that he's really gotten into that Williams seat, is just going to outperform Albon this season, especially with the look of Sparkles and his amazing helmet design for this next season. But yeah, Albon is going to be still good. He's going to perform amazingly. We might get an Albon podium this year. I don't think so, but it depends, because by the time Williams get all of the weight off of their car by the end of the season, they are going to have a very, very competitive car. But I think by the start of the season, they're not going to be able to be competitive for points as much as they were last year, especially because of results like that P5 for Albon in Australia at the start of the year. They really helped to get Williams right up the order, so I think they'll be finishing somewhere around 6th this year. I think that Haas are going to beat them over the course of the year, and Albon and Sainz are still going to be an amazing driver pairing, and it's just going to be really close for P5 in the championship, which is upsetting because I wanted to see Williams rocket up and potentially be one of the best teams on the grid with Albon and Sainz, but I think that'll come in a few years, and we might even have a time, maybe 2028, 2030, where Williams, Cadillac, Audi, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes, maybe even Haas and McLaren will all be fighting at the top of the grid for that championship, and it'll just be so peak F1, especially around that net zero carbon next rule change. But I think Albon is going to stay at Williams. He's going to be a good driver for them, and so is Sainz, and I think they're going to grow that team really well with James Vowles, Daddy Vowles, at the helm of that team. Off my top 10 in my drivers' predictions is, some of you will have already found out, Carlos Sainz. Pretty much the same story as Alex Albon here. I think he's going to be very good. I think he'll outperform Albon based on his performance at the end of the season. He's going to just carry that momentum through and be able to grow this team amazingly, and they're going to succeed a lot going through towards the end of 2026 into 27. We're going to see Williams just start off a bit meh and climb up that ladder and be able to fight for maybe a podium at some point, maybe two, alongside the Haas drivers of Bearman and Ocon. But it's crazy to say that drivers that could be in contention for the podium, like Albon, Ocon, and Sainz and Bearman, are only P9 to P12 on this order. It's going to be such a competitive grid this season with all of these drivers, and I'm so excited to see where it goes. Good luck to Williams and Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon. I am a Go Williams lover. I love Williams, so I hope they can succeed this season, and I will be following them throughout the whole thing. This is the part of the list where the predictions get slightly more predictable for a few ones, where you can kind of say, oh yeah, I can understand why this driver would be here, and oh yeah, this driver's going to be here. But in P9, I have picked Oliver Bearman. He is going to 100% improve from last year. He's improved so much over the course of 2025, from his crash in FP1 in Australia to his P4 in Mexico that may or may not have been helped by a yellow flag on the final lap, but it still would have been a P5. Equaling Haas's best finish in his first season. It is crazy how good this guy is compared to the rest of the rookies other than Isaac Hadjar. It seems like Bearman and Hadjar are just the two best rookies of the season, and then Bortoleto is really good as well. Antonelli as well, forgot to mention him. He's really, really good as well. I think we just had such a good batch of rookies, and Bearman and Hadjar have outshined the rest of them because they've been in worse cars and have managed to outperform their teammates quite well. But I think Bearman in P9 is going to be good. I think he's going to get P3 or P2 maybe even a race win, but that's not going to happen. We're going to get a Bemodium this season, is my prediction. But yeah, it's going to be a great season for Haas. They're going to finish P5 in the constructors. The Haas to plan has been initiated, and Oliver Behrman is going to be having a wonderful time this season, and maybe even getting the Ferrari seat. We'll see where Hamilton is in the next few slides. Right, this is the last position on this prediction where I am 100% confident that this is where I want to put this driver. The rest of them I've been chopping and changing throughout the recording. I have actually just changed who I think is going to be the champion because it's so close. I think genuinely 5 different drivers could win the championship this season. But in P8, I have Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar is going to be good. I think he's going to have a very, very, very good season compared to the rest of his teammates in the Red Bull second seat. He's going to outshine the likes of Lawson and Sonoda. I think he's going to break the curse and he's going to stay at Red Bull over the next season. And he's going to be maybe getting his first podium outside of the one he got in the Netherlands. The first Red Bull second seat podium since Perez in 2023, I believe. And I think Hadjar is going to be very, very good compared to those guys. He's going to finish P8, as I've predicted. He's going to have quite a lot of points. I think it's going to be a gap between Behrman and Hadjar that, as usual, the top 4 teams have the gap to P8 because of their ability to score points more often. We might even see a Hadjar win. Don't think that's going to happen, but it would be a crazy prediction of mine that we get a Hadjar win and a Behrman podium. But I'd be excited to see a Hadjar win. I love Hadjar. I've loved his story since he crashed in the formation lap of Australia to getting his podium in Zandvoort 15 rounds later. It's just crazy how much he's developed and come on since the next races and the whole season, to be honest. And I want to see that second seat at Red Bull. That curse needs to be broken at this point. It's getting a bit ridiculous. But yeah, Hadjar P8 on the driver's standings. When I say this driver, most of you will go, yeah, seems pretty normal. But the ones of you out there who support this guy to no end, just know that he could still be within 100 points of the championship by the end of the season. I think this top 7 is going to be shortened by so many more points than last year. But I have put Lewis Hamilton in P7. I think he's still going to do well. He'll get another podium at Ferrari that isn't the sprint win. I think he might even get his first win with Ferrari. But I think the rest of the drivers are just in the best stages of their career, other than Kimi Antonelli, who's still growing. And I think Hamilton just is a little bit past his prime, and I think he's still going to perform well. He's still going to keep his seat, and he's still going to want to keep racing in Formula One. But I think everyone else is just going to do better because of the fact that Ferrari is going to be competitive, but I think Hamilton won't be able to pull out the same performances as, say, his teammate Charles Leclerc. But I think he definitely won't finish with, 157 points that he had last year. I think it will definitely break 250, if not more than that, over the course of the season. And it's going to be interesting to see how the championship plays out, because considering I think Hamilton will get 250 points by the end of the season in P7, the rest of the championship contenders must be very, very close. P6 now, I'm going to go for Andrea Kimi Antonelli. He has been on form in this testing, preseason testing in Bahrain, with locking out the front row with George Russell on day 3 of week 1, sorry. And I think he's going to be so much better than last year. He's going to get multiple podiums, one, maybe even more than one win, if he has the space contend up against the other championship contenders. It's going to be a close battle between him and Hamilton for P6, considering that I think the Ferrari is going to be the second best car on the grid behind the Mercedes, and I think McLaren will be P3 with Red Bull P4. But it's all going to be so close, and I think literally anyone could win. And Antonelli is just a little bit too inexperienced to be able to take advantage of the same amount of racecraft and just overall pace as George Russell, his teammate, who I think is going to do much better. I'm not telling you where he's going to finish because that would literally spoil this entire video, and there's no point of you watching the rest of it because people will skip to the end to see the champion, which is a bit scummy because, well, why would the hell would you do that? Because you want to see the entire grid, not just the first place. But yeah, I think Kimi Antonelli is going to be very, very good this season, and I think he's going to end up making all of his wrongs rights from last season where he crashed with Verstappen and had that mid-season slump. Now, before we move into this top five predictions, I just want to stress how close this top five are going to be. So if your championship favourites or your favourite driver are in the P5 or the P4 slot, I still think they're going to be in championship contention within the last two, maybe even going into Abu Dhabi. We could have the best title fight of ever with the most contenders going into the final race. But in P5, I have put Max Verstappen purely because I think the Red Bull is not going to be as good as it was at the end of last year. And I think Verstappen isn't going to be able to extract as much pace because he's already mentioned not enjoying driving the cars as much as he used to, and his testing performances haven't been as good as they used to be when he was going to dominate the entire season, or even in 2025 when he was doing really well at the start of preseason testing. But I think he's still going to show why everyone sees him as a championship favourite every year. I think he's still going to be in it for the championship. I think there's going to be a lot of spicy moments between him and George Russell. I would love to see a Verstappen-Russell championship, but I don't see that happening this year. I think Verstappen's not going to be in that main title fight, and I think Russell is going to be going up against someone else for the championship, maybe two or even three other drivers going into Abu Dhabi who all would have a chance of winning. But I think Max Verstappen is just too good to take out of that championship fight. He could finish anywhere in these top five positions, and I would be able to believe it at the start of this season. It's just absolutely insane. In the P4 slot, I have put Charles Leclerc in his Ferrari. I think, again, like I said for Lewis Hamilton, that Ferrari is going to be very competitive this year. But I also think that Ferrari strategy is going to do Ferrari strategy things, and it's going to end up with Leclerc being in the title fight for very close to the end of the year, and then ending up losing the championship due to a Ferrari strategy blunder or a personal mistake. Because I think a lot of people overrate Charles Leclerc, to be honest. He ends up crashing or cracking under the pressure quite a lot compared to other actual championship winning drivers such as Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, who have just been crazy at absorbing pressure, and similar to how what Lando Norris did at the end of last season to make that amazing championship run. He didn't let the pressure get to him like he was in the earlier season. But I think Charles Leclerc just isn't as amazing of a driver as people say he is. I think he will get a championship. He'll get maybe one or two. I think as long as he's at Ferrari, he won't win anything because Ferrari just don't support him and what he wants. They want Ferrari to get a championship, so they try and focus on Ferrari and not their own driver, which I think is their ultimate downfall. And I think Charles Leclerc is going to end up resenting that and eventually moving to a new team and winning a championship there. Don't know where it is. Could be Red Bull, could be McLaren if Lando Norris retires, could be Mercedes if George Russell retires, could be Red Bull if Max Verstappen retires, but I think it would be anywhere that he'd be able to get his championship other than Ferrari, which would be hilarious because of all of the Ferrari. Next year is going to be our year. Next year, there won't be a next year if Charles Leclerc's not at that team and Lewis Hamilton retires, and it's just they have to pull on some rookies, and if Ollie Behrman goes somewhere else as well, they're just going to have nothing. Oliver Behrman is their saving grace at this point. He is amazing, and he's going to end up saving that team, I think, when he goes there. Now we are getting into the proper into Abu Dhabi title contenders. And in P3, I think Lando Norris will just about lose out on his championship 2 years in a row. I think he's going to come into the start of the year amazingly. He's going to have the best mindset. He's going to be leading the championship maybe after the first few rounds. And he's going to be on great form. But I think the McLaren He's going to be worse, much worse than it was last year, maybe even third or fourth best. And I think the other drivers, like maybe his teammate or Charles Leclerc, will be able to take points off him and gain on him into the championship. And I think he would just not have the car underneath him or the personal um, mindset not to bottle it every 5 seconds to be able to keep a championship hopes going for the entire season, like it kind of was at the end of 2024 when he was getting into that title fight and fumbled it again with his Brazil, where Max Verstappen won and he ended up in like P7 or something and just lost a load of points. But I think Lando will still have a very, very respectable season. He will still be seen as a championship favourite going into 2027 alongside his teammate George Russell, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and Kimi Antonelli, and maybe even Lewis Hamilton and Isaac Hadjar if they're all at their same team. But next year, 2027 could be a silly season, so we don't know who goes where. But yeah, I think Lando Norris is going to have a respectable year and he's going to be able to finish on a high, and he's going to be proud of the season that he ends up competing. Finally, to end off my championship predictions, I'm going to cover the top two in the same section because if I say the second place driver, then you're going to get the first place driver because of it. So in P2, I have George Russell, and in P1, I have Anakin Skywalker, I mean Oscar Piastri. Really, though, that photo of him doing the McLaren team kit show off was insane. He literally looked like he was back for revenge, which he is. Oscar Piastri is back for revenge. That championship loss was painful for me. Even though I'm a Lando fan, I still support Oscar. I love all of the drivers on the grid. They're amazing. They're amazing people. And I love seeing what they do outside of the grid as well, because they're not robots, they're humans, and we shouldn't treat them like robots. But anyway, Piastri, he's going to carry that end of season momentum into the next season, I think, with his, especially the way he bounced back from that slump. The P2 in Qatar, the P1 in the Qatar Sprint, I believe it was, or was it P2? And the P2 in Abu Dhabi are all amazing results for him that are going to basically catapult him up the field. In regards to George Russell, I think the only reason he's not going to win the championship is because the Mercedes isn't going to be massively clear. The McLaren and Ferrari are going to be right there, apart from the Ferrari strategy. And Lando and Oscar have each other to use as help in the races. And I think Kimi Antonelli isn't at that stage yet where he can support Russell as much as Lando can to Oscar or Oscar can to Lando during the races. So I think it's just going to be a bit of a struggle for them to help each other out and get Russell enough points he needs for the championship. So I think one engine failure could be all it needs to make him lose by a few points. But I still think any of the drivers in the top 5 could win the championship, maybe even Kimi. I don't see him winning the championship, but if he's good enough, he could. Thank you all so much for watching. This is a longer one compared to my previous video. It's going to probably take ages to edit, which is going to be painful. But I just want to thank you for taking the time to watch through this video. Each view is another moment of happiness I have, and I really appreciate all of you. So thank you very much for watching, and have a good morning, evening, afternoon, or night, wherever you are, whatever time it is. And keep using your brain. Do not succumb to the ever-looming brain rot, please. Keep grinning and keep talking. I will see you in the next one. Bye.